Hi, I'm Kevin Hill, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. As you probably noticed, there's no canvas behind me, because today we're going to work on a birch panel. You know, recently I've been getting a lot of people buying the paint set, and they've been wanting to know what's the difference about painting on a birch panel. Well, today we're going to do one together. Let me show you. This is one I did right when the paint sets first came out. It's a nice, simple little scene. I'm going to show you how to create one on a panel. So let's get started. Now let's go ahead and unwrap these paints. So we just need to pull this plastic off. And we'll just slide this little cardboard piece off. And you'll see that we have our paints nicely sorted. These are my normal colors. And our birch panel is right around back. Now here's how I normally lay out my palette. I put a tiny bit of clear gel medium right here. And then I start with white and work around the palette. Now it's not going to take much paint to do a painting this small. So we're really just going to squirt a tiniest bit out, and that's perfect for when you start, because you don't want to use up a lot of paint when you start. Now, some of the differences between a birch panel and a normal stretched canvas, really the biggest difference is the texture. The panels are smoother, so we'll actually put less clear gel than we normally do on. And it'll help sort of balance, so it'll be just like normal when we paint. There, and again, you're going to use a lot less paint, so it's great when you're beginning. You won't use up all your paint. You get a lot of paintings that way. All right, now we have our birch panel up on the easel. Now normally I would probably paint this flat on a table or on a tabletop easel because of the size, but because we're filming it, we went ahead and hot glued it to a couple of boards. So I'm going to go ahead and coat this with medium. So a little bit of clear medium, a little bit of white. And this is the way I start most of my paintings. Scrub a little bit, tiniest bit of that over the sky area. That quick, very quick, very quick with something this tiny. So let's load together a little bit of our yellows. Probably a little bit of both yellow. This is going to look great. There. You're going to paint the whole sky in a couple of brush strokes because of the size. Now when you're learning, like I said before, this is the way to do it. Because look at how little paint I'm using. I mean, it's just so tiny compared to an 18 by 24 size, which is what I normally do. So you can get a lot of practice out of something like this, spending very little money, save yourself some money, and have a lot of fun. You don't have to invest a ton in order to have a great experience with art. And this is dry down here, no medium, but this panel slides along pretty well. So there you go. All right, let's throw a color up here at the top. I got my umber and I got my red, and to that let's throw a little black in. Use small bits of paint when you mix, don't mix a lot. Because if you mix a lot, well, you just end up wasting paint. Add white to it to lighten it up quite a bit. Oh, this is going to be pretty. I'm always wiping on a paper towel to remove that extra paint. Now on a panel, you want to paint with even less because there's no texture. It's smooth. And it takes less paint to cover. I'll throw a little of this down here for shadows maybe. I'm going to bring this down because I don't want it so yellow. I want it to be more muted than that. So bring that down. Good. There we go. I'm going to take my blender brush and smooth this all together. The blender is great because it just flattens everything out and makes it beautiful. Nice. And that's pretty quick and easy. Now let's paint some trees. From now on, I'm pretty much going to use small brushes. There's no reason to use anything large. So let's pick up a soft color here. Just mixing together most of the dark colors. Leave out the green though. And maybe a little white. Let's see what this looks like on the canvas, see if we like it. That's all right. I do want to add a little bit of brown and ochre our umber and ochre, because that will make a very pretty color that sort of goes with the sky. Watch this, see that? It's warm. And these are going to be trees. Let's see, let's make them go all the way up here. You can get some of the best little textures on a panel like this that you cannot get on a canvas by using the brush strokes. Allow the brush strokes to cut through the paint, and it looks like little details that you didn't paint. See that vertical detail there? It may not show up too good, but in person you'll see what I mean. All right, let's do a little blending. Always use that blender brush to get a soft background because you can make them so smooth. Now, if you want to paint a mountain or something on here, it would most likely turn out a little more smooth than on a canvas because you don't have that texture to work with. So I recommend using that to your advantage and do a soft, beautiful mountain. Really, really know what you're working on and use it to your advantage because you can get some crazy, nice effects on here. There, I like that little tree line. Let me set that brush down, pick up a filbert, and keep on going. I think today's going to be a winter scene. Here we go. But it's going to be a warm one with a lot of beautiful things, with a lot of beautiful colors. This is just a backdrop for what we're doing in just a second with larger trees. So maybe right here, I'm going to begin to work on some detail. Now, let me have some fun today and help you get started when you're painting. Now, a lot of people do not know how to start, how to set up all these, well, basic beginning things that are important. I'm going to go ahead and start with the palette. You can choose literally anything for your palette. I like a nice big palette, but maybe you want to go with an old paper plate. That works. Paper plates are good. Another thing that works is wax paper. Those are super for like quick and easy disposable palettes. There's all sorts of things you can use. But mainly you want to make sure that you have enough room to work. And obviously if you're doing paintings this size, you can get away with a very small palette. I used to work on paper plates when I first started a lot because they were easy to throw away. I was actually sitting around painting in my kitchen, and because I wouldn't finish them in one day back then. And for the most part, they were custom orders, so I would really take some time on them. But I would use paper plates, and they worked out really well because they were quick and easy to throw away after the hour or two I was painting. There, look at that. I'm just tapping to create these nice little trees. There, creating already the lay of the land back there. Now, we can do some rocks. Let me show you my palette here. Let's get a little warmth in these rocks. Red, yellow ochre, umber, and some white. And you mix them all together until you get a shade that you think is just beautiful. Let's give this a shot. There we go. I'm just going to worry about the warmth in the rocks, not really the shadow yet, because this is a snow scene, and I know snow is going to be piled in and around them, so the rocks are not going to be overly important to this. I'm going to darken that color up with a little black, and we'll just sort of throw in some shadows. There, if we miss out on some areas, we don't care. Like I said, we got snow coming. Like a deeper, dark area right there. Nice. Now let's go ahead and throw in some beautiful shadow areas. So I've already mixed up a beautiful color here, just a little bit of white and red and blue. That's all it is. It's going to be a nice little soft purple color for the shadow areas in the snow. Now, you'll notice that most of the difference here in this board versus a stretch canvas is a lot of time I work on a stretch canvas. The biggest difference is, well, one of the biggest differences is that it's not stretchy, it's not bouncy. And that will make a slightly different effect when you paint on it. Your brush strokes will look different. We've already sort of touched on that already. So you're going to end up painting with a slightly lighter touch and slightly less paint. There. And let's throw a little bit under here. But that's great as long as you know what's going to happen. You don't have to worry about it. Just roll with it. It's fun. And allow your brush strokes to show through. Don't get carried away thinking you have to smooth them out, because you're losing the character of the painting if you do that. There. Now should you get a hair, because it's so tiny, you should go ahead and pick those hairs out as best you can. Because it's so tiny and detailed, and they might be a little more distracting than they would on a big one. So that's just my thought. You can leave them in if you want to. I know a lot of people sit there and try to pick them out with their fingers. I've seen it before. Don't do that. Just lift them out with the tip of your brush. There. If you pick them out with your fingers, it sometimes messes up the painting, so you just got to be careful about that. Now this is going to be some sort of a frozen lake, and the shape is going to look like this. Now another thing that's very interesting here when you paint is you can actually take a paper towel and very easily wipe this down and go back to almost white. And you can do that because there's no texture, very little texture on here, on this smooth board. So you can actually go right back to white if you don't like an area. So it's pretty good for learning. All right. So now let's go ahead and throw a bit of, well, let's throw a bit of white on there before we go too far. White and yellow ochre to get us a beautiful sunlit golden yellow color. You know I like that color. And watch this. There we go. Drop some of that right on. Now you may have noticed on these boards that they are bare wood on the sides. The front is actually primed with an acrylic white gesso. And that's perfect because that's exactly what our canvases are normally primed with. So it's great for painting on. The sides are not primed. You can paint the sides, that's fine. However, I like to leave the sides just blank because it gives it a very beautiful, rich wood texture without having to do anything. And you don't even have to frame it. How nice is that? You can make a completed painting, you don't even have to frame it. Because frames can get expensive. And this is a great way to show off your art on a wall. You can proudly hang it up in your house. It's very tiny, I'm sure you have room for it. And you can show off your masterpiece. And the set comes with all of the colors that I use. So all those videos you've seen me do. These are the colors I use. It doesn't take much to create an amazing color in your painting. You just want to mix it. You don't want to have it necessarily already mixed for you, because you get more variation when you mix it yourself. All right, how's that looking? Pretty good? Do a little over here. I'm going to go ahead and blend out the background so that it's less hard, so we get a little distance in the painting and smooth it like that, and then it comes sharper focus as you go forward there. Now, tell you what, let's bring these trees forward in the painting. Darker, a lot darker. Let's go with some brown and black and touch of green and blue. And red. Touch red into there, why not? A little more paint than we did before, and tell you what, let's go with one right here. I'm going to add a little more blue and black into that. And I'm just going to touch down. There we go. And I'm going to rock my brush and my fingers so that I get these variation in lens size and shape and placement. There we go. And as we go down the tree, you can block it in a little thicker. And I don't care if it mixes a little. I do care if it mixes a lot, so I'm going to just be careful, watch it. And as long as it doesn't mix too much, we're not going to deal with it. Simply blend that down. There. We can work with that shadow later. I'm not even going to worry about it right now. Tell you what, let's do one that goes, we'll tell you what, we don't want it all the same, so let's take this one off the top. And let's go ahead and give this one beautiful, wow, that brush is giving me some good texture today. There. Let's give him a little bare spot, just to change it up. because we can do that. Now if you want to, if you feel like you want it in this painting, come back with a liner brush and add a little detail to the limbs. We'll stop this one right there. And I'm just going to throw these trees in. I'm going to do quite a few today. Now as you can see here, I'm really just painting a little bit of this warm grass against the cool snow. It really adds a lot of beautiful contrast, having those warm against cool colors. I think we mentioned before that I wanted a lot of warmth in this painting, and this is going to be partly how I create it. Just a bit of warm grass in here. A little yellow highlight, you can do that. Why not? Just throw it in if you want it there, and if you don't like it, you just take it out. But I bet you're gonna like it. There. And there's a bit of dark, because you can throw darks in. You don't always have to put the highlight out on top. Sometimes you can work the grass by putting a little dark back in. You can always put darks back in and get a decent effect that way. What do you think? Maybe a little tall grass right here. This fan brush is actually one of my older ones. I've been using it for, well, several months at least, probably a little longer. And so it's a bit worn out, and it gives me nice textures. So my point is, don't throw away your brushes. Leave them. Just keep them. Don't throw them away. And they may not be perfect for one job, but they might be great for another job. You just never know. So I don't throw them away till they're real toasty. And then I'll get rid of them. But go ahead and I encourage you to save them. All right. And that's a pretty good tip because, like I said, you can experiment around and find all sorts of cool things to do. I really like this grass. I don't want to do it all over the place, but I'm sure I'm having fun with it. All right. Tell you what, let's put a little more snow out on this grass. And I think maybe this would be a good opportunity to sneak a little snow in between the grass. So let me sort of make a choice here. And this snow comes down in front. This will create another layer and add a little depth. Grab a little purple and paint that in. Put a bit of a dark there. Nice. Load a little white out on top. Sort of sneak that white right over, leaving a little extra texture because, of course, we're getting a little closer. You can kind of use texture to suggest detail where there's not. There, okay, that helps. That breaks it up. Gives us another little plane in the painting. Another layer, another little row, and just makes it all a little bit more interesting. Now you're building up texture, you're not going to be able to paint over this again unless you wipe it off, so there. Be careful when you do that. Understand there's texture there and it's going to be pretty wet. You can't paint over it so much. Let's put a light over here, not a lot, just a little. Sort of clean up the base of this area. Again, leave a little texture. Maybe go back over on the right-hand side. A little touch right here. Cool. That works. That totally works. And then we can put big grass with our liner brush in a minute. Maybe we want to make this look a little highlighted right here. And a little bit more highlighted right here. Building up a lot of texture there because, again, that is really thick on there. So I had to put a lot to cover it up. Over here, not so thick, but I might just texturize it so it matches. So what's really cool about these birch panels is you can build up texture in some areas and leave it other areas very flat. Not flat, no depth, but flat, no texture. And it kind of gives you a nice effect, very, very artistic looking effect. You can see those brush strokes like that. Okay, tell you what. Let's work a little more on these reflections here. Kind of already got them started, but we can sort of make them bigger. And I'm doing this just by wiggling my brush down. Sort of suggest the masses of color. Put a little dark here, and then I want to blend that out. Just smooth it over. Nice. Let's highlight those trees. I'm going to use my little liner brush just because they're so tiny. I'm going to start with white. A little bit of white, no thinner added. So this is very thick paint out on this brush. And these trees are basically backlit, so I don't want to go crazy with the highlight. I'm going to go just a little highlight like this on the edge. It's okay even to bounce around because the light is basically here on the edge. Now the light is kind of more from this side, not exactly dead center. So you don't want to go totally backlit on this tree, but it's okay to have some sneak around the other side, as long as you don't go overboard. Make sure this is not symmetrical. Ooh, watch this. Get these little guys out here. Okay, that's slow. Let me try the filbert brush and see if it works. Yeah, there you go. So you can experiment around. Okay, so I suggest the best way to do this. It's kind of fun. You get to see me experimenting around. And I do this all the time. The best way to do these trees, I just learned, is sort of do them with the filbert brush and then come back and then detail them with the liner brush. We both learned something today. That's fun. I don't want to go so bright that they stand out against the background too much. Cool. Very pretty. Let me just deepen that color up a little. A little blue. So these are not going to be prominent on this side. Tiny, tiny brush strokes. So we haven't talked much about brush strokes, but you want to have small brush strokes when you do tiny canvases. I mean, it makes sense, but if you have big, broad brush strokes, it's going to look undetailed. It's going to look very rough. So try to make sure you have tight brush strokes. Let me show you my little palette here. I'm just going to get a nice shadow color, and I want to put this in the middle of this tree and on the right-hand side a bit. There. And these trees here in the middle are the most important. The other ones we might not even detail out like this, but let me grab my little liner brush. Let me grab my white, and I'm going to detail this one out. So it's already painted, now we just sort of pop on a little extra. There we go. No thinner because I've got a lot of texture, I got a lot of buildup of paint out on my brush, so I don't need the thinner, and I'm not drawing tree limbs. Don't need anything to thin it down with. Maybe some pure white out on here. Watch this. Watch this area come alive with a little bit of pure white. It just shows a contrast between the background and the tree. Maybe on this one too. A little bit of liner brush work to get some very tiny limbs. Nice. Back to the big brush. Pretty funny when we call the filbert brush a big brush, right? Normally we work with a 2-inch, but this is our big brush today. There. This is a great one to teach you control over the brush, because you have to kind of tighten up a little and get a little more precise with your brush strokes. So this is actually a great little learning tool for you. And like I mentioned before, you're not using up a lot of paint, so you can have a lot of practicing. This is a good value for your money. There. This turned out to be kind of a fun little scene. I've had a good time painting it with you. There. Very soft little winter scene. You can sneak a couple of darks right over here. Ooh, watch this. Take the filbert brush and load it like that with dark and then a little light. A little more light. There we go. And you can get some very, very subtle little stones up here, or rocks. I don't recommend that technique for large paintings, but for something this small, it'd be kind of tricky to get in there and add a lot of extra detail. So this works out pretty well if you want to double load the brush like that. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I hope you really enjoyed seeing me paint on a birch panel. It's really different. Now all we have to do is sign it. Well, here's what our finished painting looks like on the wall. You see, it really brightens up the room. Well, just imagine your own painting hanging on the wall. I hope I've given you some encouragement and inspiration to pick up the brush and give it a try. It really is a lot of fun. I hope you really enjoyed this, and thanks for watching.